Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to Chemplast Sanmar Limited Q2 FY22 earnings conference call, hosted by ICICI Securities. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during this conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Sanjesh Jain from ICICI Securities. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thanks, Malika. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining with us on Chemplast Sanmar Limited Q2 FY22 results conference call. We have Chemplast Sanmar's management, Mr. Ramkumar Shankar, Managing Director, Mr. N. Muralidharan, Executive Director, Finance, Dr. Krishna Kumar Rangachari, Executive Director, Custom Manufacturing. I would like to invite Mr. Ramkumar to initiate the proceeding with his opening remarks, post which we can have a Q&A session. Over to you, Ram sir.
Right. Thank you, Sanjesh, and good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of Chemplast Sanmar Limited, I extend a very warm welcome to everyone who's joined us on our call today. My name is Ramkumar Shankar, and I'm the Managing Director of the company. I am joined on this call by our CFO, Mr. N. Muralidharan, and Dr. Krishna Kumar Rangachari, the Executive Director of Custom Manufactured Chemicals Division, and FGA, our Investor Relations Advisors. Today is a very special day, as it is our maiden call post the IPO. I would like to thank the entire investor community for showing confidence in our company and for the response to our recent IPO. Since some of you may be hearing us for the first time today, let me give you a quick snapshot of our company, and then we will walk you through the operational and financial performance. Chemplast Sanmar is a 55-year-old company tracing its heritage back to the 1960s. Our sponsors include two very well-respected names in the Sanmar Group, which is a prominent industrial group with considerable history, and Fairfax, a well-known international investor. Over the years, Chemplast Sanmar has carved out a niche in the Indian specialty chemical sector. We are the largest manufacturer of specialty paste PVC resin in India, and through a wholly owned subsidiary, Chemplast Cuddalore Vinyls Limited, or CCVL, we are the second largest manufacturer of suspension PVC in India. The company is also a leading player in the custom manufacturing of starting and intermediate chemicals, catering to multinational innovator companies in agrochemical, pharmaceutical, and fine chemical industries. Further, we hold a significant leadership position in basic chemicals like caustic soda, chloromethane, and hydrogen peroxide, which complete the integration story of the company. The consolidated turnover of the company, including CCVL, for the fiscal year 2021 was rupees 3,800 crores, while the operating EBITDA was rupees 855 crores. To do a bit of a deep dive on each of the key products, let me start with specialty paste PVC. Our company is a pioneer in paste PVC in the country, with production commencing as far back as in 1967. This is a product that largely goes into the manufacture of artificial leather, which in turn goes into the making of auto upholstery, furniture upholstery, footwear, leather articles, etc. We are the largest manufacturer of paste PVC in India, with a market share of 45% and a production share of over 80%. The market for paste PVC was, as per CRISIL research, 143,000 tons in FY20, while the domestic supply is only around 80,000 tons. This market is expected to grow to over 180,000 tons by FY25, thereby causing a sizable demand-supply gap of over 100,000 tons. To address this gap, the company is planning to add fresh capacity of 35,000 tons per annum at Cuddalore, which is expected to come on stream in fiscal 2024. In recent years, the paste PVC market globally has witnessed various structural changes, including permanent shutdown of almost 10% of the capacity. Thus, this combination of supply-side tightness, demand growth, and our own leadership position are all acting as very strong tailwinds for this part of our business. The custom manufacturing business is an expertise-oriented business, and we work with global innovator companies in agrochem, fine chem, and pharmaceutical space to manufacture starting materials and intermediates. We market and sell unique chemistries to our customers. Customers approach us with products that they wish to outsource, and unlike other companies in this space, we do not have a catalog of products that we offer. We are well renowned in the industry for our abilities to handle complex chemistry such as cyanation, hydrogenation, and distillation. We also have the advantage of access to many basic starting materials like caustic soda, hydrogen peroxide, and chloromethane within our own ecosystem. Looking at the market, custom manufacturing market in India is close to $6 billion US, and as per CRISIL research, it is expected to grow at a compounded annual growth rate of 9.1% per annum till FY25. The global demand for life science products such as intermediates, pesticides, and herbicides is also expected to continue to increase. Moreover, India is being looked at as a probable destination for many of these projects, while in the past China used to be a favorite. And this is due to various restrictions that have come up in China in recent times. The China Plus One strategy of global innovators will also provide a very strong impetus to sourcing from India and opens up significant opportunities for us. We plan to spend around 340 crore rupees in phases over the next few years to expand our custom manufacturing capacity. On the non-specialty side, the company produces basic chemicals like caustic soda, chloromethanes, and hydrogen peroxide, which complete the integration story of the company and add significant value to the various joint products and byproducts that we produce. In each of these products, the Indian market or our target regional market is deficit, and we have a strong leadership position in our focus markets of South India. Demand for each of these products is also expected to grow at a very healthy pace as per the industry report. Through our wholly owned subsidiary, CCVL, we are the second largest manufacturer of suspension PVC in India and the largest in South India. This is a 100-year-old product which is globally seeing a big revival due to various factors, including China's dual control policies, the Minamata Convention seeking to eliminate mercury consumption in industry, the post-pandemic construction and housing boom across the globe, and India's growing demand-supply gap in PVC. In India, the demand for SPVC largely comes from the plastic pipes, which in turn go into irrigation, water conveying, and construction. With a capacity of 300,000 tons per year, we are the second largest producer of suspension PVC in India, and we focus on the southern market where we are the dominant player. The Indian market for this product is close to 3.4 million tons, and here again, our country is severely deficient by almost 2 million tons per year, with the gap currently being met by imports. And this market is expected to grow to 4.3 million tons at a CAGR of 7.7% per year by FY 2025, driven by the growth in irrigation and urban infrastructure. So that was an overview of the businesses that we are present in. And in terms of the infrastructure, we have 4 manufacturing facilities in the southern region of Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. One of the key advantages we have is the extent of integration at our manufacturing facilities. Chemplast Sanmar has a very high degree of vertical and horizontal integration with captive facilities to meet feedstock and intermediates. For instance, Chemplast makes caustic soda and chlorine as joint products at 2 locations, with the chlorine from one location being used to make intermediates for paste PVC, while the chlorine from the other location is used to make chloromethane. One of the chloromethane products in turn is used to make refrigerant gas, while the byproduct hydrogen from the caustic chlorine manufacturing is used in the production of value-added hydrogen peroxide. The feedstock for making caustic soda and chlorine are salt and power, and we have captive facilities for both, and that's the extent of integration that we have. Our investment in marine infrastructure is also another one of our key differentiators. We have 2 captive terminals, both capable of handling refrigerated gases. Our growth has always been governed by strong environmental health and safety standards. Over the years, we've invested significantly in this area, and all our manufacturing sites have zero liquid discharge plants, which ensure that all liquid effluent is treated and reused within the process with no discharge outside. The coastal plants at Karaikal and Kadlur on the east coast of India also have desalination plants, which ensure that we draw water only from the sea and do not disturb the groundwater table. And this also ensures that we live in harmony with the neighboring community. We also have earned the right to use the Responsible Care logo, which is an international chemical industry initiative granted after very stringent third-party audits. We release annual sustainability reports prepared in accordance with global GRI standards and assured by a Big 4 audit firm. And these reports have been released for 12 years now. Looking ahead at the growth levers for the company, we expect future growth to come from clearly identified operational and strategic levers. We are working on expanding our paste PVC capacity by 35,000 tons per year, or about 50% of our existing capacity, at an investment of around 256 crore rupees. Work is in progress on this front, and as mentioned earlier, it is slated to come online by FY24. We are also working on expanding our custom manufacturing business with the addition of new multi-purpose facilities, thereby bringing in new products which are in the pipeline. This will be done at an additional investment of 340 crore rupees in a phased manner starting from FY22. Both these projects would leverage upon already available land and infrastructure at our existing manufacturing sites. Another aspect of growth which is very imminent is the debottlenecking of our suspension PVC capacity by 10%, which is expected to come online as early as the end of this financial year. Moving to the business performance, this has been a very eventful half year. While Q1 of FY22 saw the impact of the second wave of COVID, our production was not much impacted. Continuous process plants like ours were allowed to function through the state lockdowns. However, as our customer plants were affected, demand was subdued and stock built up. This was temporary though, given that demand revived very strongly in Q2. We have been able to significantly draw down the inventory that was built up in Q1. Moreover, business conditions turned very positive towards the end of Q1 and through Q2. Suspension PVC, paste PVC and caustic soda supply continue to be tight internationally. Supply has been affected due to weather-related issues, Hurricane Ida in the US, floods in Europe, coal and natural gas shortages across the world. The dual control policy in China has further impacted operations of caustic and PVC plants in China. This has resulted in prices of these products and other chlorine derivatives like chloromethanes, which our company produces, reaching historic peaks. As mentioned earlier, demand for the products has also revived strongly in Q2 with resumption of economic activity post the second wave of COVID. In August, the company successfully completed the IPO, and with the proceeds of the IPO, the term debt in Chemplast Sanmar has been fully repaid. This would significantly bring down interest costs in the months ahead. The interest rate on the term loan in the subsidiary, CCVL, has also been renegotiated down effective September. Post the IPO, Chemplast Sanmar has been rated A+ for the long term and A1+, which is the highest for the short term by CRISIL, and this is a significant upgrade from the earlier ratings held by the company. These very positive business trends are also reflected in the financial performance of our company, which I would now request our CFO, Mr. Muralidharan, to present. Murali?
Thank you, Ramkumar. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Muralidharan, and I will now quickly take you through the financial performance of Chemplast Sanmar in H1 FY22. Chemplast Sanmar on consolidated basis registered a significant increase in its revenue and operating profits for H1 FY22 as compared to the same period in the previous year. In terms of overall volume, both CSL and its wholly owned subsidiary CCVL together saw a production increase of around 35% on year-on-year basis in H1 FY22. Revenue from operations for H1 grew by 92% to 2,633 crores as compared to 1,368 crores in the corresponding period last year. This was on account of higher volumes compared to previous year, as well as higher realizations per ton for the key products such as specialty paste PVC resin, suspension PVC, and caustic soda. Prices continue to ride an upward trajectory due to supply tightness resulting from the confluence of factors such as disruption of chemical operations in the USA on account of Hurricane Ida, logistic challenges in Asia, energy crisis in China, etc. EBITDA grew by 118% to 498 crores in H1 FY22 as compared to 228 crores in the corresponding period in previous year. EBITDA margin increased from 17% in H1 FY21 to 19% in H1 FY22. Net profit for H1 FY22 was at 180 crores as compared to a loss of 114 crores in the corresponding period in previous year. The finance cost for H1 FY22 was higher due to the impact of one-off items amounting to rupees 63 crores. As the NCDs in Chemplast Sanmar were prepaid by 31st August 2021, the unamortized processing fees pertaining to the NCDs amounting to rupees 26 crores was charged off in August 21. Post the IPO, with a strong balance sheet, we have been able to renegotiate and reduce the interest rate applicable on the term loan availed from IndusInd Bank by the subsidiary company CCVL from 11.75% per annum to 8.75% per annum. As the change in terms is deemed as a substantial modification as per the relevant accounting standards under Ind AS, the unamortized processing fees pertaining to the original loan and the fee paid for modification of terms, both together amounting to rupees 37 crores, was charged off in September 21. These two items accounted for the one-off debit of 63 crores in finance costs in H1 FY22. Going forward, these one-off items will not recur. Further, with the repayment of NCDs, the interest on NCDs of around 18 crores per month will not continue. IndusInd loan interest will also go down due to the reduction in interest rate from 11.75% to 8.75%. Thus, we expect a significant reduction in interest and finance costs in the coming quarters. Moving on to the balance sheet. On the balance sheet front, we redeemed the NCDs amounting to rupees 1,238.25 crores, which was part of the objects of the primary issue, using the net proceeds of the fresh issue of equity shares to the company made in August 2021. With this reduction, the company has become debt-free on a standalone basis, and on a consolidated basis, the net debt is negative. Further, utilizing the net proceeds of the offer for sale received by the selling shareholders, the term loan availed by Sanmar Engineering Services Limited from HDFC Limited has been fully repaid. Consequently, the security in respect of this loan, including the pledge over the equity shares of CCVL, the wholly owned subsidiary of PSL, has been fully released by the security trustee. With this, there is no pledge for the shares of CCVL held by the company and the shares of Chemplast Sanmar Limited held by the promoters. Looking at the cash flow, driven by the strong performance, the company generated cash from operations of 640 crores as against 13 crores last year. That sums up our presentation on the performance for H1 FY22, and we now open the floor for further discussions.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on your touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Anyone who has a question at this time, please press star 1 on your phone. We have the first question from the line of Vivek Gautam from GS Investments. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. A few questions, sir. Regarding the EBITDA margin for SPVC, suspension PVC, versus competition, why ours seems to be on the lower side? For example, DCM Shriram, much smaller division, the PVC division than us, almost 1/4 size. They had the very good numbers, sir. So is it something to do that we are not integrated in SPVC and the raw material for the same were on the higher side, squeezing the margin? Because in paste PVC, we are having very good margins, sir.
Yes. Mr. Gautam, that's a good question, and you had the answer yourself. In suspension PVC, our route is different from the name, DCM Shriram that you mentioned. They make suspension PVC through the carbide route, whereas we make it through imported VCM. The level of integration that we have is not all the way down. Unlike in Chemplast Sanmar for paste PVC, where we are fully integrated, in suspension PVC we've gone through the asset-light route, where we have much less capex in terms of investments, but at the same time, therefore, the value addition that you capture would be that much less.
So any solution for the same, or this problem is going to persist, because almost 75% of our product range is in the commodity side, except for paste PVC and the CDMO.
Okay. This is not a problem as we see it. What we have taken is that we've taken the approach of going through this asset-light model, because number one, it would reduce the investment that we would need, and it would also increase the time to market for any expansions. And even at the original time when we brought this project on, this was the fastest project to come onto the market. So this was just an approach. Going forward, so long as we have decent margins in the product and we are confident about securing the feedstock, this would be quite a good route to follow. Of course, beyond a certain level, if you're going to expand, then of course we could always look at integration backward as well.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bharat Seth from Quest Investments. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, sir, and congratulations on the good set of number. Sir, coming to this suspension PVC again, see, various players have been reporting that since the China, which is largely through carbide route, has again opened up, so price is softening. So how do we see the spread in the second half? Whereas in our presentation we are stated, long-term sustainability. So in H1 our EBITDA per ton is around 17,000 vis-a-vis 20,000, 21,000 we reported last year. So how do we see the spread?
Okay. So say that's a good question. Actually, if you look at the Chinese situation, the Chinese PVC prices in the futures market were actually well above $2,000 a ton. And when the Chinese government stepped in to cool down coal prices, these future prices also reacted and therefore they have come down. However, in the physical market, the availability of PVC continues to be very tight. This is one reason why there is minimal impact right now on Indian PVC prices or even regional PVC prices. For instance, even in October, post Q2, suspension PVC prices in India have only gone up, by around 12 to 17%. And the November quotes to India for imports have also moved up. And this is including quotes from China. And post the retreat of the southwest monsoon in India, the demand for PVC in India will only now start increasing with more pipes being laid in the fields and construction activity also resuming. Thus the pressure on availability will get more. Having said this, we cannot be looking at it on a quarter-to-quarter basis in the sense that it's not like prices will keep moving only in one direction. They are at significant levels and there could be some minor corrections here and there. But what we need to keep in mind is that when a correction happens in PVC prices, feedstock prices would also follow, albeit with a lag of maybe a couple of weeks. So therefore, that is not so much of a concern for us. But more importantly, if you look at it in the medium to long term, PVC is getting structurally very tight. There was an international chlorovinyl conference recently, and presentations at this conference actually brought out the following points. Between 2021 and 2026, the global demand is expected to grow in PVC by 9.2 million tons, while the global capacity is expected to grow only by 4 million tons. Thus, 5 million tons of a gap is expected to develop over the next 5 years. And by 2026, this will result in an operating rate of plants worldwide moving up to 93%, which means extreme tightness. And this does not even consider any of the existing capacity in China moving off the grid because of either decarbonization or the mercury issue relating to the Minamata Convention, or both. And the presentation in that conference mentioned that the merchant carbide PVC producers in China, who account for around 5 million tons of capacity, would be most at risk, as carbide prices are expected to continue to increase. Thus, given all of this, I believe that the PVC industry itself has moved to a next level. And this is the reason why you would have seen in the recent past many people talking of super cycles, etc., when they talk about PVC.
So, sir, taking to this question further, which we reported, say, 21,000 EBITDA per ton in FY21. So can you give some kind of a range that we are expecting over the next medium term?
We would not like to actually give any specific numbers, but what I would like to say is, for all the reasons that I just spoke about, we are very positive about the PVC industry. We are quite confident that margins would be there. Like I said, you can't look at it on a quarter-to-quarter basis.
Correct.
Some quarters would have very lumpy growth. Some quarters would have more sedate growth or may even be static. But if you look at the directional trend over the medium to long term, this is an industry which seems to have moved to the next level. There is a stage shift in terms of the industry dynamics.
Okay. And how do we see this paste PVC and utilization, since still, our capacity, size is relatively low. So how do we see that? Because expansion is coming only in 24. So till that this business will remain in this range only?
Paste PVC again is a very, very niche product. It's a specialty product. And here we are the dominant player. There are only two producers in India, and of the total production in India of 80,000 tons, we produce around 66,000 tons.
Okay.
You are right in that our current plant is completely fully running at full operating levels. And our new plant, for which we've already started the base groundwork, is expected to come by mid FY24. But here again, the same factors that are at play for suspension PVC are equally at play in paste PVC as well, because a significant part of the paste PVC capacity in China is based on this carbide group. And there are significant challenges that the carbide PVC producers are facing, both because of decarbonization and because of the mercury issue. So we do believe that here again, just like we have seen over the last 2 years, we have seen a significant step up in the pricing, the price levels of this product. There would be revenue growth through price increases.
Okay, and this question is for our CFO. Murali, you said that in this Q2 we took the hit of 36 crore or 63 crore one-time hit?
63 crores one-time hit. 37 crores is in the subsidiary CCVL.
Okay.
That is on a renegotiation of the interest rate and bringing it down.
Okay.
That resulted in a one-off charge of 37 crores. In Chemplast Sanmar Limited, since we repaid the NCDs in full using the IPO proceeds, the unamortized fees of 26 crores had to be written off. These two account for 63 crores.
Okay. And Murali, so coming back to, our current interest run rate is around on 800 crore at 9%, that is 7 crore, and plus on 3 to 4% spread that credit facility we enjoy it, correct?
If you are looking at what would be the interest outlook going forward, the interest cost per quarter would be in the range somewhere between 40 to 45 crores. Compared to the 149 crores you saw in Q2,
Okay.
it will be in the range of 40 to 45 crores.
And coming to this, how do we see effective tax rate for CSL as well as CCVL?
CCVL is under the lower tax regime. It uses the 25.17 rate. And CSL actually has MAT credit, so its effective tax rate is only around 17.5%.
So, and it will remain at that level?
For a couple of years, till we use the available MAT credit. After that, we will go for the lower rate in CSL as well.
Okay. Thank you. If I have more question, I will rejoin the queue. Thank you.
Thank you. I would request the participants to limit their questions to 2 each. If time permits, we will come back to you should you have any follow-ups. We have the next question from the line of Ankur Periwal from Axis Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity and congrats for a decent performance. Sir, continuing with the earlier discussion, now while there could be some volatility, from a month-on-month basis in terms of the international spreads, are we hearing anything from, incremental ban or cut down in terms of Chinese production, given the power outrage that we are seeing, and if these current production cuts are more longer term in nature, or probably they will come back maybe a quarter or two down the line?
We do see some long-term impact, definitely. There are two factors at play. One is on this decarbonization and the other is on the mercury issue. The decarbonization is centered around both the total energy consumption as also the energy intensity, which is the energy per unit of GDP. And obviously, any product that is energy intensive in its manufacturing process will be covered by both these factors. And calcium carbide and indeed caustic soda squarely come into this range. And that is why the focus is on these two products. In fact, if China has rolled out something called the 1+N philosophy of handling this decarbonization, which the N part relates to the action plan, specific action plan. And just 2 days back, they've come out with 4 products on which they're going to focus. And one of that is ethylene and the other is calcium carbide. and they have set a very stringent target of reducing the coal consumption in the production of calcium carbide by 15% over the next 4 years. And they have also said very clearly that the national NDRC, the National Development and Reform Commission of China, will be focusing on cracking down on small and unremunerative or inefficient capacities in these 4 products. So we believe that going forward, calcium carbide and indeed the merchant carbide PVC producers, that is those who depend on buying calcium carbide to make the PVC, they don't have their own calcium carbide facilities, those will be severely at risk.
Sure, sir. And the new capacity expansion that we are planning here on the paste PVC side, we should see commissioning in financial year 24?
That's right.
And this will be as backward integrated as the current operations, or how will it be placed?
This will be based on imported VCM, because we are piggybacking on the import infrastructure that we already have at Cuddalore, built by our subsidiary company CCVL. So, and this will enable us also to bring this capacity to market much faster than it would otherwise have been.
Sure, sir. And just last question to Dr. Krishna Kumar. On the CSM side, given the China Plus One playing out, we have already been seeing some bit of benefit there. And given the backward integration, the raw materials available, at a relatively better cost to us. Any comments in terms of incremental inquiries or interest shown by the global guys, either from existing clients or the new client additions there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we commercialized 2 new products this year, and our pipeline continues to be healthy and growing. And yeah, we do have a lot of inquiries in the pipeline driven by what's going on in China, and which again forms the basis of the expansion plans we have for this business in the coming years.
Sure, sir. That's helpful. Thank you, and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is on the line of Saravanan from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead. Mr. Saravanan, your line has been unmuted. Please go ahead with your question. So we cannot hear you.
No audio.
Yeah, as no response. Yeah, now I can hear you, sir.
Yeah. Thanks for taking my question. You mentioned about the production increase 35% year on year as compared to FY21. FY21, all of us know, had COVID specific issues. So in relation to FY20, could we have the number? Would you have it?
Yeah, we do not have those numbers readily with us, but you're right in the sense that FY21 was largely because of the national lockdown that was there in April, May and June of 2020, when most of our plants around the world, around the country, most of the plants were shut down, and our plants were no exception. And that is this year, whereas in the second wave of COVID, our plants continue to operate, so that was not an issue. If you look at FY20, we had very significant capacity utilization numbers. In fact, paste PVC operated at 100%, caustic soda was at 82%, chloromethanes at 99%, and so on. Suspension PVC was at 91% as well.
Okay, got it. So from FY23 perspective, in terms of volume growth, would it be led by the expansion in market size? Or because the capacities in paste PVC is going to come only in FY24, and there is a small debottlenecking in suspension PVC also. So FY23, can you just take us through what kind of growth we would have in FY23?
Sure. In FY23, the growth would come, like you rightly said, from the debottlenecking that we have in suspension PVC. That should add around 10% to our existing capacity, or around 31,000 tons. And then we would also have an increase in hydrogen peroxide, the increase in caustic soda for the full year, because now we are running that fully and restoring our existing capacity as well. And the new products that we are commercializing on the custom manufacturing side. So you would have increase in volumes from these products. And then in FY24, the paste PVC volumes would start coming in as well.
Okay.
Obviously, the market factors would also add, if prices go up, then that would also add to the revenues.
Okay. Thank you. My second question is on the payables and inventory. So we have about 2,000 crores payables, and is it foreign currency denominated? And wanted to understand the hedging policy. And part B, inventory, because of the feedstock prices also moving up, do you see any inventory related risk that investors should be cognizant of?
Okay. I'll address the payables first. Payables are primarily dollar denominated, but we are quite conservative in terms of our hedging policy. As soon as we place any purchase order for import of feedstock, we immediately take the forex cover. We don't keep any of the exposures open. So there is no forex risk that we take on the payables.
Okay.
As far as the inventory, is concerned, the increase in inventory is primarily due to the fact, like Ram was explaining, while in the first quarter, our continuous process plants were allowed to operate, and we were producing. The end user industry, our customers' plants were not operating. To that extent, the offtake got impacted in the Q1. And we built up some amount of stock in Q1, which got significantly liquidated by September. We carry a little bit of stock which will get liquidated in the next 2 to 3 months' time. And we don't see any inventory risk arising out of this.
Yeah. Just to place that in perspective, we carry for suspension PVC less than 10 days of stock right now. And paste PVC, we have possibly around, less than 2,000 tons, which is really not more than 8-9 days of stock. So it's not like we are carrying huge inventory.
So it's mostly raw materials.
Even raw material inventory would be really, it would be restricted because these are all gases and chemical tanks. So it's restricted by the extent of the tank that we have. So it's not like we have huge storage for all of these.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is on the line of Dhruv from HDFC EMC. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So in the previous comment, you mentioned that the interest cost will continue at about 40 to 45 crores, which is about 160 for the year. If I see the net debt, it has almost gone negative. So I'm just wondering what drives this interest cost then?
Interest costs will be from 3 parts. One is the interest on the term loan that we have. We have a term loan of around 830 crores in the subsidiary company. That will carry interest roughly around 9.2% per annum. That's the weighted average rate of interest for that. That interest will keep accruing. And the discounting charges on our suppliers credit, that will be another charge. And of course, the LC charges that we pay on import of our feedstock, that also comes under interest and finance costs. That also adds to it. So these 3 account for that 40 to 45 crores.
Okay. So the term loan is about 74 if I do the 9% rate, and the remaining is because of the discounting in the LC. All right. So this 830 crores, so when you say that, if I'm not wrong, you would be net debt, net cash on a consolidated basis, right? 194 net cash is on consolidated basis.
Yes, we are on a consolidated basis. We are a net debt positive company.
Net debt positive, yeah. So, is there something stopping us from repaying this 830 crores? Because you have a debt also and a cash balance also.
As you would appreciate, using the IPO proceeds, we have already significantly brought down the debt. We have repaid the 1,238 crores of NCDs that we have. We have brought down the debt significantly. Today, if we look at our debt, even at a gross debt level, gross debt to EBITDA is at 0.8 levels. We do believe that keeping some level of debt is important at the capital structure level. And I think that's the reason we do want to maintain some level of debt.
Got it. So the cash that you have, would you be using that to probably shift the financing in trade payables so that there can be some savings there? Because otherwise the cash balance is generating, I'm not sure what, 5% after tax, 4% after tax.
On the trade payable side, actually, this is part of the such long credit periods are part of the nature of this industry. And as you know, we've been availing this long credit periods on trade payables since we commissioned our Kadalur facility in 2009 for almost 12 years, and it's a very cost-effective way of availing the facility as well. As far as as far as using the cash, we feel that the environment, the overall economic environment is still slightly fluid, and we would like to remain liquid in these circumstances. We'll certainly evaluate the cash position as we move forward and take an appropriate decision. And of course, part of the cash will also get used for the equity portion of the capex that we plan to do. And we believe being liquid in our industry, because as you would appreciate, in all our products, more or less India is deficit, and we have a lot of opportunities to grow. And being liquid will sort of enable us to capitalize on any new opportunity that may come up. So at this point in time, we would rather remain liquid given the overall economic environment and also the positive benefits that will give us. That's our thought process. Obviously, we will evaluate it as we move forward and take an appropriate action.
Sure, sir. Because if I look at the current run rate, the amount of FCF that you will be generating pre the capex, it's significant. So sure, sir, probably that can take later. So the second question was on the demand. So we have seen that the pricing for some of your products have increased quite decently versus, say, for example, last year, and also in the average of many years. So are you seeing any influence on demand of these prices? Any early indicators that the demand is getting somewhat impacted, and that can be a concern?
What happens actually is that because these are products that have been around for a long time, it's not that easy to substitute them. And for instance, if you take PVC pipes, there are certain advantages that just go beyond the pricing. It's also to do with the ease and convenience of the joining of the pipe lengths with just solvent cement rather than hot welding as is required in certain other types of pipes. So there are intrinsic advantages that PVC comes with, and it's not easy to displace it. In the short term, if there is a question on affordability, one thing that could happen is that some of the customers of the pipe producers could shift marginally to lower quality pipes. So that could possibly be the immediate short-term impact, but those are all very short-term, and we don't think that there is a very long-term implication on this.
Got it. So as such, the demand should not be a worry. And so lastly, if I look at the expansion plan that we have for the SPVC and the PVC, now SPVC both started probably in early FY21, and SPVC is getting completed in almost a year and a half. And the paste PVC is taking almost a year extra for that. So is it because of the nature of equipments that the paste PVC is taking longer time for commissioning?
Okay, the SPVC is just a debottlenecking that we are doing at our existing facility. So it is more by adding some balancing equipment and by making some process improvements that we are getting this extra 10%. Essentially, we are sweating the existing assets better. Whereas paste PVC is actually a brownfield project where we need to build it ground up. So that is the reason why that takes 2 years. In fact, because we have taken the asset-light model, and we are piggybacking on the facilities, the existing land and infrastructure that is already there at Kadalur, this will take us far less time than possibly it would take anybody who wants to set it up in a new location.
Got it, sir. Thank you so much. That's helpful.
The next question is from the line of Sanjesh Jain from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead with your question, sir.
Thank you, and thanks for giving this opportunity. A couple of questions from my side. First, on the exit EBITDA run rate itself, considering that this was an unusual quarter where we entered with a very low spreads and we exited at a high rate, I think the average doesn't give the right picture. So can you just explain us what was the exit EBITDA for us on a consolidated basis, and what was the exit finance cost, which we said 40 to 50 crore on an annualized basis? Have we achieved that in the month of September? This is my first question.
Sanjesh, on the exit finance cost, I did highlight you that it will be in the range of between 40 to 45 crores going forward, given the changes that have happened. As far as the exit EBITDA number is concerned, actually we wouldn't like to guide one particular month number as a basis for you to look at going forward. So our to look at the quarter, we have made that 347 crores of EBITDA. In that quarter, we do agree that the EBITDA has grown over a period of time, over the quarter, that we do recognize and agree. And the outlook, like Ram explained earlier, the outlook for the next quarter looks quite strong. That we can comment, but we don't want to give a particular month number and that becomes a benchmark based on which the outlook is sort of calculated. That would be our guidance.
Got it. But fine. Second question on the expansion with Ram earlier. Murli, you explained that you need to keep the liquidity for the opportunity. I think PVC cannot had seen a better opportunity than what we are seeing today. So are we planning for a further expansion in the suspension PVC beyond the debottlenecking which we are doing today? Because India is severely deficit, and I think we have the liquidity, we have the land, we have the infrastructure and the know-how on the PVC. So how should we see the suspension PVC expansion from here? Can we add another 3 lakh metric ton of capacity on the existing 3 lakh metric ton? Does that kind of a scenario realistic to look at?
Okay. Sanjesh, you're right in the sense that selling any additional quantity into the Indian market is really a no-brainer, because there is a deficit of 2 million tons. In 5 years' time, this will go up to 3.5 million tons. And therefore, new capacities are the urgent need of the hour as far as India is concerned. But the very fact that, there has been a little bit of, it's not as if there's been a rush of new people coming in with capacity, because it's not that easy. As far as we are concerned, we have focused initially, we prioritized expanding in the specialty side of our business, which is why we have started work on both the custom manufactured chemicals as also the specialty paste PVC business, the expansions. That is not to say that we are not we are only looking at it sequentially. We are open to opportunities that will come up even in suspension PVC. In fact, we have at our existing site at Cuddalore the ability to triple our capacity. That is the kind of land that we already have. The marine terminal that we have for import of feedstock can accommodate at least 3 times the current quantities, because we are operating it only for 7-8 days in a month right now. It is a question of time. We are working on certain other matters on suspension PVC. It would need the tying up of feedstock, the sourcing, and so many other things. But when that opportunity is it presents itself, you can be sure that we will definitely take it up. Because, like I said, we are one of the pioneers in suspension PVC production in India. We go all the way back to 1967, and our product is very well recognized and accepted in the market. And to top it all, we also already have an environmental permit to go up from 300 to 600,000 tons. So we can come to market quite fast once the opportunity is tied up.
Got it. That's fair. Just one related question to here. Assuming that we need to again put up another 300,000 metric ton of capacity in the suspension PVC, what kind of a capex requirement will it need to add that? Now that we are following this asset light model, will it be very, very small compared to the capacity addition we are planning to do?
So if we are going for, if you're going to do it in the same way in which we are currently operating, which is based on imported VCM, then the capex could be anywhere between 750 to 800 crores. Of course, it all depends on the prices of steel and other things at that point in time. But if we are going in if an opportunity presents itself to do it on an integrated basis, then the capex could be that much more. it all depends on what is visible and what is what we can work on at that point in time. So it's really dependent on the source and the extent of integration that we go for.
No, that looks like a very, very attractive opportunity, considering that this quarter we did 200 crores of EBITDA in the CCVL on a quarterly basis. What we are telling is that we can double the capacity, and the payback period, even if this kind of a spread sustain, it is probably less than a year we are talking. And even if it half, what we are telling is that the payback period is 2 years.
That's right. So that's exactly right, because the suspension PVC business, that's why I've been saying that it has moved up a couple of notches and it is now in a different zone. Having said that, before we put money into the project and steel on the ground, obviously we would like to tie up all factors, including feedstock, etc., and have that comfort level for a long period of time. So all of that will happen. So it's a question of time. When the time is right, I'm sure we will make that announcement. I just wanted to say that right now we're focusing on the specialty chemicals business, and maybe the time will come for suspension as well.
Fine. Thanks, Ram. I have more questions, but I will come in queue. We have a few more questions in line.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in interest of time, we request all participants to limit your questions to 2 each. Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Janaki Raman from Franklin Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Ramkumar. Does Chemplast think beyond PVC in terms of growth opportunities?
Okay. Mr. Janaki Raman, that's a good question. Actually, we were one of the pioneers in the chlorovinyl space. So it's not just PVC. We were into caustic soda and chlorine derivatives, and we have been expanding along that. So if you look at it, we started off with PVC, and then we took over a company which was making caustic soda and chlorine, from which we were buying the chlorine. And then we got into chlorinated solvents, and then we used the hydrogen to make hydrogen peroxide, and we used the chlorinated solvents to make refrigerant gas. And then we used our expertise in chemistry to get into custom manufactured chemicals. So we are not constrained by anything, but at the same time, we do not wish to lose too much of a focus as well. We believe that there are significant opportunities even within our existing product groups. For instance, like we just said, suspension PVC itself has huge opportunity. Paste PVC has huge opportunity. The custom manufactured business that we are in, again, presents a lot of opportunity for us. So we believe that there are enough and more opportunities in our existing lines of business.
Okay. Because when I compare your current EBITDA run rate, and even if one assumes that it normalizes a bit, in relation to that, your capex requirements are not exactly significant. And so when you have a opportunity like they say, strike the iron when it is hot, so you have an opportunity, I sense that you're a bit circumspect in committing more capital. So where does that circumspection come from?
No, it's not a question of being circumspect in committing capital, not at all. In fact, we would like to commit capital and grow in areas where we are already strong. So that is the reason why we are expanding our paste PVC. Incidentally, our paste PVC, the environmental permit that we have sought for is not for 35,000 tons, it is for 70,000 tons. So the 35,000 ton expansion is phase 1. And likewise, we have enough and more opportunities on custom manufactured as well, chemicals as well. And we have already, when we came up with this IPO and while in the run-up to the IPO, we presented a capex investment program of around 600 crores. And I'm sure that we will come up with other plans in due course. It's after all just a couple of months since we listed and completed our IPO. There are enough and more opportunities, and please be assured we are not circumspect on capital. We have grown over the last 50 years and grown to the size that we are. In fact, we were the last company to put up a significant PVC capacity in India in 2009. Nobody else has come in with that kind of a capacity.
Okay. And if one looks at, let's say, slightly longer term, 5 years or even longer, is it possible to visualize a scenario where you're able to take up the specialty paste PVC to something like 200,000 tons?
Our immediate idea, actually, from 66, we are taking it up to 100. And like I said, we already have the environmental clearance for another 35. So that would go to 135. And definitely, yes, see, we are the, if I may say so, the 800-pound gorilla in this space. We are the market leaders by far. And obviously, that leadership position is something that we would guard very zealously. And whenever this extra capacity is required, we would definitely be the first to put money into that.
And for this product, would you be having an in-house developed technology?
We actually had technology in 1967 from B.F. Goodrich, one of the oldest and one of the pioneers in PVC. And since then, every expansion that we've done, B.F. Goodrich moved out of the PVC business long back. Since then, every expansion that we have done has all been through our own in-house developments.
Okay. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashish Shah from Polymer Capital. Please go ahead.
Sir, thank you for taking the question. Sir, I had a few questions. The first one was, sir, how are the suspension PVC and VCM spread, imported VCM spread, are that also as volatile as the PVC prices, or the spreads are largely stable?
The spreads would be far more stable because largely because of the fact that VCM is really a one-trick pony. It can be used only to make suspension PVC. So it cannot remain out of sync for too long. And apart from certain other demand-supply dynamics on PVC itself, which as we can see right now has taken up PVC prices, VCM prices would remain largely in sync, at least directionally.
Okay, so is it fair to assume that maybe 70-80% of our profitability or EBITDA is largely stable and it will not fluctuate as frequently as the PVC price, irrespective of the cycle?
I will, like I said, I think sometime back also, this is not a business that we should track quarter to quarter. There would be quarters where you would have very good growth, and there would be quarters where you would have sedate growth. So that should always be kept in mind. But directionally, if you look at it on a year-to-year basis, you would find, especially now, given that PVC has moved on to a different zone, and it has moved into, I don't like using this word, but what people are calling the super cycle mode, I believe that you would see a lot more predictability.
Got it. Sir, and any update on our custom synthesis, if you have had any client or anything over there, or any new plans?
Sorry? No, yeah. So we qualified or commercialized 2 new products this year, and we have a healthy pipeline of products and working with a number of innovative companies. And so this process is ongoing, and again, as I indicated earlier, this forms the basis of the growth plans and the expansion plans, we have factored for this business in the coming months and years.
Got it. Sir, and one last question. Sir, how is the realization in the paste PVC, say in October, November versus an average of Q2? I'm just asking the realization on the paste PVC or the specialty PVC versus the Q2 average.
Okay. While you would appreciate that, we would prefer not to give specific numbers. All I can say is that October did see an increase in the realizations, and prices are doing well. Q2, of course, Q2 prices definitely did go up.
The Q2 average was around 150,000 rupees, was around that. And like Ram mentioned, the prices have since moved up in October.
Okay, got it. This is very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Abhijit Akella from IIFL Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you and good evening. Just a couple of data points I was hoping for, if possible. One is, could we have the custom manufacturing revenues for 1H and 2Q, as well as a comparison versus the corresponding periods of last year?
Abhijit, what I can confirm is that the custom manufacturing revenues in H1 has gone up compared to the last year. But we look at custom manufacturing and specialty space PVC together under specialty chemicals, and that is how we track the numbers, and that is how, in fact, if you looked at the investor presentation that we have posted, we have posted the specialty as a separate vertical and shown it. And as you see, the specialty vertical has grown by 81% in revenue compared to last year. I would like to get into the specific numbers of custom manufacturing in interest of confidentiality and competitive interest.
Okay. And within the the segment-wise volumes and revenue slide that you have in the presentation, is it possible to, number one, get a breakdown of the non-specialty chemicals revenues and volumes? I mean, I know you've combined caustic soda and everything else all together. Is it possible to share that separately? And also separately, just wanted to check if it's possible to break down the specialty EBIT between paste PVC and the other products.
Okay. See, as far as like Murli just explained, we follow three segments: the specialty, non-specialty, and suspension PVC. And since suspension is in a separate company, we look at it as a segment by itself, and it's also significant. We would not like to get into the individual factors in each of these, again, largely for competitive reasons. But we can give you for each segment, we can give you the details that you want. But of course, you do know the capacities that we have for each of these products. That is already there in the investor presentation. So that should give you a fair idea of the size of each of these.
Right. Okay. Got it. Thank you so much, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Abhijit.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, sir. So the first question is in terms of capital allocation. So we have given the CAPEX plan for the next 3 years. In terms of overall CAPEX, how do we look at it from a split-up basis between the commodity and specialty from a longer-term perspective? Thank you.
I think right now the capex that we have outlined and is heavily skewed towards the specialty. Out of the 620 crores, 600 crores is for specialty paste PVC and the custom manufactured chemicals, because that was a priority. It's only a question of the priority queue. But I'm sure that if the opportunity, like we discussed at great length, there is a huge suspension opportunity that is out there. And in going forward, that could also be an interesting opportunity that we could take up. But right now, it is more specialty that is the focus of what we have already outlined.
Right, got it. So second question in terms of going in for a modular development, you indicated that the environmental clearances for double the capacity what we are trying to put up currently. So any specific reason for going for half of the capacity now and half of the capacity at a later date? And second, concurrent question on the suspension PVC. If we were to go for a brownfield expansion to double the capacity, how much time will it take to commercialize that project? Thank you.
See, as far as paste PVC is concerned, first of all, this is the environmental clearance that we've applied for. We have not received it yet. But the reason we are going modularly is basically largely to ensure that there is no disruption to the overall market, because we would be displacing imports, and we do not want to have too much of a price disruption at that point in time. So this is more to sleeve in the quantities in a very smooth manner. So that was really the entire intention. And as far as the capacity expansion, if we were to expand the suspension PVC at our existing site, it will not take us more than 2 years. from zero date. And when I say zero date, that is the date from which I already have the environmental clearance. So it's only a question of taking the final investment decision. From then, it will take us maybe 2 years.
Right. And just a small follow-up on the CapExes which are currently going on. In terms of lead time for all the items, we are safely placed and the project is as per schedule.
Yes, the project is as per schedule. We already have completed the basic engineering. We have completed most of the detail engineering. A lot of the negotiations with vendors are already in place. And the minute we get the environmental clearance, obviously we will do it only after we get the clearance, we will start the ordering itself. So we are well in control and we are confident that we are on schedule.
Thank you so much and best of luck, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, due to time constraint, we'll be taking the last question from the line of Rajesh Ravi from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Good evening. Sir, coming to your SPV suspension PVC, as you mentioned, this has a very strong payback period. Just wanted to understand that even the working capital seems to be, negative. There is a large payables which is there. So effectively, there is, less amount of capital employed and 4 to 5x asset turn. Is the understanding right?
You are right. The capital employed in the business is very limited. Even the asset, if you look at on a fixed asset basis and calculate the asset turn will be easily more than 5x.
Right. So given that, this has been the case even for the last 2 years and demand outlook in India is obviously firming up, what is holding on to many, for you and maybe Reliance and some of the other big producers in terms of going for new capex?
This is only a question of, for a long time, it has been a question of the availability of ethylene. PVC is where you need two molecules. One is chlorine and the other is ethylene. Chlorine is available in plenty in India, but ethylene is not, all the ethylene that is there in India is already spoken for off by the polyethylene manufacturers. They use it for themselves. So you did not have ethylene all these years. That's why ours was a PVC plant that came up in India, and we also went through this. We were getting over the problem by importing ethylene in the form of VCM. So that is exactly what has held up a new capacity coming up. But now there are some opportunities opening up, and hopefully you will see some new capacities coming up in India.
Okay, so you're saying that even other players should chip in and the domestic supply should go up in next few years?
Domestic supply is not going up at least until 2025, because even if somebody were to decide today, they will take at least for getting the approvals and then starting the build, it will take at least 4 years. So anything that happens will happen post 2025. But even if new capacities come in, it's actually a positive, because given the fact that the gap is already 2 million tons growing to 3.5 million tons, whenever new capacity comes in, it will actually motivate the downstream, the customers of PVC resin to further plan their own expansions, because India has got a huge potential to grow in PVC end products as well. And when they see that new resin capacities are on the horizon, they will also feel confident enough to plan their expansions.
Okay. Ram mentioned, while the 2025 would apply, for us, actually the time to market will be much less, because we already have the environmental approval. So once we take a final investment decision, we can move quickly. The implementation period of 2 years only will matter.
And given that this scenario is going to be favorable at least till 2025, would it be fair that you would be expediting on this project?
We will definitely, we will make that announcement as soon as we get to that stage. Right now, we don't have, we are not in that position where we are making that announcement, but we are on the lookout for growth opportunities.
Great, sir. That's all from my end. Thank you. All the best, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rajesh.
Thank you. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Ram Kumar for his closing comments.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a very interesting 1 hour or so. And in addition to the structural changes that we have seen in both paste PVC and suspension PVC, there are also a few short-term temporary factors that, as you know, have been driving the market imbalance, including the impact of hurricanes, rising gas prices, coal energy prices, and the environmental policies in China. The company is very well positioned to ride on the industry growth on the back of our proven capabilities, and with our growth plans, we will also be able to unlock multiple growth levers for the future. We are very confident about that. With this, I conclude the call. If you have any future queries, please contact SGA, our Investor Relation Advisor. Thank you all for joining us today on this earnings call, and we wish you all a very happy Diwali. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of ICICI Securities, that concludes this conference call. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.